Hey everybody, at Homewood Old Guy Hi-Fi channel. I hope everyone's doing well today. Today should be an interesting video. It's certainly been a very interesting review process for me. We're going to talk about the TAD ME1-TX stand mount speakers. So please do me a favor, sit back, relax, and we'll get going on the review of these speakers. So the TAD ME1-TX, well, we've got a $22,000 pair of stand mount speakers. That price does include the stands. The basics are, it is a three-way bass reflex enclosure, which means it's a ported enclosure. And the way they vent the port and do that is really interesting, and I'll show you some cutaways. The engineering on these speakers is quite remarkable. I'll put some specifications down here, but 85 dB sensitive, 4 ohm load. You'll need some good powerful amplification to get the best out of these. And I had some very good powerful amplification to do that. And I'll tell you about that when we test it. Uses a 6.5 inch composite cone woofer. Uses a 3.5 inch magnesium cone mid-range with a concentrically mounted 1 inch beryllium diaphragm tweeter that uses TAD's proprietary beryllium vapor deposition process to coat it. Now it is a concentric driver, and that's something TAD's been known for quite a long time. So this particular speaker was introduced in 2016. This is the latest version of it. So they've made some changes. They've improved some of the componentry inside. I think they've made some changes to the tweeter and the vapor deposition process and those kinds of things. So who is TAD? Well, TAD has a rather fascinating history. It was formed back in 1975 by Pioneer Electronics, and it was a project to create high-end speakers for professional use, and they called it Technical Audio Devices, or TAD. Now, there was a gentleman named Bart Locanthe who was a very well-respected American audio engineer who helped advise Pioneer in the beginning, and his guiding principle was that real technology stayed true to the basics. Sound quality comes first, not technology for its own sake. A lot of times we see products that were done because the engineers could, not necessarily because they should. Well, anyway, this principle of sound quality first has been TAD's mantra for the last 40 years, and it is the guiding principle for everything they do since then all the way through to today. So one of the things that's really important is the reproduction of music as accurately and as with all of the detail and all of the resolution that is possible to retrieve. Now, what does that mean? Great recording sound amazing, bad recording sound bad, but the speaker's true to the source. It's also very revealing to the electronics in front of it. And we'll talk about that when I talk about the summary and so forth. So part of their technologies that they've developed over time are the coherent source transducer. Now, this is a concentric driver. Other people obviously do concentric drivers, but TAD's unique spin on it is the magnesium cone mid-range, the beryllium diaphragm tweeter that has a response from 2,500 hertz to 100,000 hertz. Well, why do you need to go out to 100,000 hertz? We can't hear that high. That's true, but if we're clean out to then, any distortions or anything else will never reach the audible frequency range for us, and will then make sure that there is no coloration added to the sound. The way the cabinets are constructed, solid, inert, no cabinet resonances. The way the ported enclosure is done, and I'll show a cutaway of it here, it's called the silent enclosure. It's aerodynamically designed to manage the air coming out of the box itself so that there's no port noise, no chuffing, no nothing, and you get a good even dispersion of that energy from these side panels. So every product that TAD makes is hand assembled by really true artisans in Japan. This is a great example of precision Japanese manufacturing, precision Japanese engineering, and precision Japanese build quality. Just amazing build quality. The fit and finish on these is remarkable. As a matter of fact, there are even specifications. They know how much torque they apply to each screw used in the construction of the speaker. I think that's kind of amazing. So in 2007, Pioneer spun off TAD and it became TAD Laboratories, and now it's its own entity. And obviously they're still moving forward. They do electronics, which hopefully I'll get a chance to review some of with their electronics. They obviously do a bunch of other speaker systems. They still do the professional speakers. So it's really interesting how the company's evolved over time. Now, one interesting note is our good friend Andrew Jones worked at TAD from 2003 to 2015. I don't know if he had any involvement with these speakers. The original ME1 came out in 2016, and I think it was the new speaker that was the post-Andrew Jones era speaker system, so I don't think he had much to do with it. And then this new version, the TX, came out just a couple of years ago, and it's just an evolution of the original ME1. So now, let me do this. Let's talk about some of the equipment I used to test, and we'll talk about some of the music I used, and we'll move on. So how do you test a $22,000 speaker system? Well, you put some really good electronics on it. And you guys know I have some good stuff here, and I'm not going to go through the entire list, but I put a lot of different gear on these to try to get a different. Yeah, one of the things I'm going to talk about when I'm talking about the equipment is I want to talk about synergies, because at this price point, synergies become really, really important. And especially when you have a speaker that is as revealing and as accurately engineered as this is. So it's really important. But the basics are, you guys have seen my room before. I sit about 11 feet back from the speakers. 11, I have a laser measure, and usually I'm about 11, between 11 feet and 11 foot 1 inch, honestly, back from them. I don't do an equilateral triangle. Typically the speakers are anywhere from about 8.5 to 10.5 feet apart. With these, I found 9 feet apart was good. Now they are 4 feet out from the wall behind them, and they're about 4 feet in from the sidewalls, and the sidewalls are all acoustically treated. You can see it behind me here. And I get really good, very smooth, very accurate response in the room. I've measured it, and from a bass standpoint, I'm pretty flat down to 25 hertz, although I didn't, these don't go down that low. And let's talk about that. They're rated down to 36 hertz, and in room, I think that might be in room. I don't know that I got quite that low. They do a good job with bass, and I'll talk more about that in summary. But I didn't use a subwoofer except for casual listening, not review listening. But I don't know that they quite go to 36 hertz. They maybe go below 50, maybe close to mid 40s, something like that. So as far as equipment I did use the live GAN-M monoblocks. That was good, but as I said, with a lot of these GAN-FET monoblock amps I've done recently, you really need to be very careful about the front end you put on them. And so the preamp becomes important. So I think with the GAN-FET monoblocks, a good tube preamp is really important. We'll talk about the preamps I used. I also used the Pearl Acoustics 7040 Class D amplifier. That is a remarkable amplifier. That has a beautiful sound, and it has 2 modes. I don't know if you saw the video of it. It has what they call a detailed mode, and then they have what they call a relaxed mode, which actually is now earned the nickname the old guy Hifi mode. That amplifier is very powerful, very ballsy, and it pairs well with tube front ends, solid state front ends. That's a really good amplifier. I did use the Black Ice F22, and I'll talk about that in a second when I talk about synergies. I did use the Advanced Paris A12, and I have a Junction JA99C 30th Anniversary Export Edition. It is an 80 watt pure Class A amp, and that was a good combination. Not the best, but a really good combination. But literally for most of, probably 75% of the review listening I used the big Electrocompagnie EW300M monoblocks, and that's a Class AB amplifier. They run about, I think, $30,000 for the pair. So for preamps on these, I used a bunch of different tube ones, Rogue, Audible Illusions, the Black Ice F360. Two that I found really worked well with the Electrocompagnie EW300s was the Advanced Paris XP700, which at $2,500, that's a screaming deal on that preamp. It is remarkably good sounding. And I also used the $5,300 Electrocompagnie, the matching EC 4.8 Mark II, and that was a wonderful combination. So for most of the listening, again, the big Electrocompagnie monoblock amps, and either the Advanced Paris preamp or the Electrocompagnie preamp. Now for source components, probably the lion's share of the time, I used the Live Harmony with the Singzer SU2 DDC reclocker. I did for a period use the Musician Pegasus, and I did use the Shanling SM 1.3 streamer DAC unit with good success, and I did use the Shanling ET3 CD transport. For the reclockers, primarily I use the Singer SU2. For RCA cables, XLR cables, and USB cables, and digital coax cables, I used a combination of either the Advanced Paris Link cables or WireWorld cables. For speaker cables, I used either the Advanced Paris Link, the WireWorld Solstice 10, or Luke at Crescendo Cables out of Canada was kind enough to send me a pair of HPVL10s, and that's a cryogenically treated speaker cable. I think they run about $4,300 for a pair of 10-inch speaker cables. So that's how I tested. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what I did music-wise, because it's a little bit different than what I normally do. So rather than do a deep dive into albums and the musicians and the studio it was recorded in, what I did was I created a very special playlist for the TAD. There's be a title and a Qobuz link to it. And there will also be, in the community post, will be a actual text document talking about each track, what I heard and what you might be able to expect to hear on your system, and that way you can start drawing some comparisons. So again, kind of very different. So starting out, I used this track from Patricia Barber off the album Modern Cool called Company. Now this is a really intimate, it's got a very intimate kind of jazz club feel, very smoky, kind of torchy female vocals, very good bass response, really beautiful, very delicate cymbal brushing. It's excellent to listen for tonal balance and low level detail. Her voice is beautifully textured. It's almost like she's just kind of singing into your ear. There's a little bit of that breathiness. There's a little bit of that, like I said, kind of a little torchy, very intimate sounding vocals. Just a beautiful, beautiful track. The next one I used, and this is one I've used before, it is from Milt Jackson and John Coltrane, and it's called Bags and Train, and it's off the album Bags and Train. This is a remarkable early 60s jazz album, just amazingly well recorded. It is absolutely considered one of the all-time best jazz albums. And what you want to listen for, it's got a very warm and open mid-range. It has kind of there's a very effortless interplay between Jackson's vibes and Coltrane's saxophone, and it's kind of a little bit of a call and response. It's a little bit of a one playing off the other. It reveals a lot about instrument separation and precision timing. Those guys have to be very precise in their handoff and very precise in their timing, and especially Milt Jackson when he's playing the vibes, and he's got, you know how they hold the two mallets this way and they play with both hands. Just a beautiful sound, great sense of room. This is a beautiful recording from that standpoint, just absolutely marvelous. So the next recording I want to talk about is Keith Jarrett. What an amazing jazz pianist. You know, he played in Miles Davis. He played with a lot of people. It's called the Köln Concert, or K-O-L-N, the Germany. Köln Concert Part 1. And it's a solo piano, but his touch is so, I don't know, just amazing. And it's very nuanced, and there's very kind of, you hear the pedal resonance of the Sustinato pedal. You very much hear the room. It's a little bit live, a little bit reverberant. It exposes a lot of upper mid-range clarity because he's playing kind of on the upper half of the keys on the piano. And you really get a sense of that upper mid-range clarity and really good transient speed, because he can be very delicate and he can be very percussive. This is a very, very good recording. Now, another one I used, and this is kind of a stress test. And again, there's a whole bunch of them. I think there's 17 different tracks on this playlist. This is kind of stress testing. And it's Hans Zimmer. It's from the movie Dark Knight. It's called Why Are You So Serious? And this goes low on the bass response. And again, I didn't get super deep bass out of these. Again, I'll talk more about it in the summary. But what the bass that I did get was extraordinarily fast, very articulate, beautifully textured. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the summary. So with this one, you get these really low bass sweeps. It shows the speaker's low end extension and whether or not there's any cabinet resonances, especially when you crank on them. And these things are as inert as can be. Now, the other stress test, or one of the other stress test tracks I used, is this track from Hugh Muscala. It's called Stimela, and I think that translates to Coltrane. It's off the album Hope. And this is very much a live, there's so much live energy in this recording. There's a very piercing bass line, very deep drums. You get a lot of the sense of the crowd. It's really good from, kind of the high frequencies all the way down to the low frequencies, a really good test for realism and headroom. And the transients are amazingly quick. They're very dynamic. This is a very dynamic speaker. And and it's just fast and articulate, just amazing. So again, I will put a text document in the community post with all 17 tracks listed and what I heard and kind of what you might expect to hear. And that will be a companion. It will be linked in the video description of this, as well as there will be a title and Qobuz link in the video description for this particular playlist I put together. So now let's talk about what I thought of these. So what do I think of the TAD ME1-TX? Well, it is without question one of the finest speaker systems I've ever heard. It's certainly the finest one I've reviewed for you guys down here in the room. It is an interesting speaker system. It has its own unique character, and that character is extraordinarily revealing and extremely neutral. TAD is very much an engineering company, and I think this is a good statement piece or a good introduction to the high quality Japanese engineering, high quality Japanese manufacturing, and just attention to detail and artistry and so forth and so on. The speakers themselves are extraordinarily neutral. Now, I don't know how they measure, and I don't really care. I use my ears as a measurement device, but they're extraordinarily neutral. So let's talk about them from kind of top to bottom. They do say that they go down to 36 hertz. I don't know that I heard all the way down to that level, but the bass that I did hear was beautifully, it was fast, it was detailed, it had good texture to it, there was good resolution within the bass, especially with some of the tracks that I've used, you might have an electric bass and an acoustic bass, or an electric bass and a keyboard doing bass, or down on the far on the left hand of the piano. All of that was reproduced beautifully, just very accurately, very neutral, no coloration, I didn't feel like the speaker's extraordinarily fast. Transients are amazing on it. Very fast, very detailed. Just beautiful that way. So the bass sounded very natural. Sounded like, when I was listening to that Keith Jarrett track, which was had a lot of resonance, a lot of room reverb. Yeah, I felt like I was in the room with it. It reproduced that nice. The Huma Scala track, you could hear that live audience very well. So you got a really good sense, and we'll talk about when imaging and soundstage in just a second. So upper bass in through the mid bass and into the lower mid range. Like I said, the attack was fast. Drum kits, amazingly fast. You heard that stick hit the drum skin. Just the transients were amazing and seemed to be unfettered. Now, those big Electro Company amps have a ton of current, so they can provide the speaker with whatever it needs to reproduce those transients, and these did an amazing job. And as I said, they're very fast sounding, very responsive sounding. So mid-range, beautifully reproduced. Vocals were beautiful. Now the speaker it is an extraordinarily neutral, I don't think it has really any sound character at all. I think whatever sonic characters it had were kind of engineered out to be absolutely neutral and true to the source. And that's very much kind of a studio monitor sort of engineering principle, is to just be dead neutral. Whatever you put into it's what you're going to get out of it. This doesn't add any coloration of its own. And I think that's exactly what we got. So the mid-range was absolutely detailed as could be. Beautiful nuance, beautiful subtle details. Everything was revealed. Patricia Barber's voice was just amazing, really beautiful. Rebecca Pidgeon's voice in the Spanish Harlem track, beautifully reproduced. A little too much reverb on that recording, but you got that. You heard whatever was on the recording, whatever was in the electronics is what you get out of these speakers. They are a bit ruthless, I will tell you that. You put on bad electronics, mismatch. I love the F22 from Black Ice, but it was a great match for this particular speaker system, and I think it's a difficult load, and the amp struggled a little bit, and you could hear that. I think with the Electro Company, amazingly good sound. That has all the power and the juice to do it. Even the Advanced Paris A12 drove these beautifully. That's not a normal combination, but it's one I've got here, so I used it. Again, mid-range, absolutely hyper detailed, really well reproduced. No coloration, I detected nothing other than whatever was on that recording was what I was listening to. Now, the speaker being neutral means it's very cool. Now, cool, I use terms like cool and warm. When I mean warm, I mean there's a little bit of lushness, and I'm sure that's probably a characteristic of the speaker design, a cabinet resonance, a driver choice, a crossover component, whatever. Then it adds some coloration. You get the kind of the British sound, you got the Focal hyper detailed sound that'll rip your ears out. These are just absolutely faithful and dead neutral. There is nothing going on other than what you're putting into them. And I think that's a true testament to the quality of the engineering and the research that goes into building these things. So very neutral. High frequencies beautifully reproduced all of the detail, leading edges of notes, the transients. You know, you hear a triangle or the splash of a cymbal, especially the brushed cymbals on like the Patricia Barber recording. Just all that detail was there, beautifully reproduced. I detected no anomalies. I thought the high frequency transients, the sense of air, all of that other stuff was very accurately reproduced, no question. So let's talk about imaging and soundstage. From a soundstage and imaging standpoint, these things vanish. They do a disappearing act like few speakers I've heard. They really do a good job at disappearing. So the soundstage was very large, very wide. A lot depends on the electronics and the recording as well. But with the Electro Company, with that high quality amp and preamp and these, soundstage was huge, well outside the dimensions of the speaker. Good height, good width, good. Now imaging, very precise imaging, very good focus. Center image was just laser sharp and appropriately placed in space, fore and aft, depending on how it was recorded. I thought with the classical music, instruments were well placed in the soundstage. Wasn't absolutely the deepest soundstage I've ever heard, but again, a lot can be attributed to the synergy of electronics and speaker system. But boy, was it rewarding, and it was very precise. Now, I'm not normally a big precision imaging guy. If I know the violins are there and the violas are there and the cellos and the bass and the woodwinds and the brass, that's kind of all I want to know. But these gave me a much more focused image placement, instrument placement in it. So beautiful that regard. Just very powerful, very dynamic. When you cranked on them, these things they could play with you if you wanted to go loud. And there were times when I was up above 80, 85 dB, which is really loud for me normally. And they held their composure. They kept they sounded exactly the same. Now, low SPL, 60 to 70 dB, they do well. They will reward you with good power and good current, and they will reward you if you want to play louder. They do that quite well. I'm not a loud listener, so 70, 75 dB peaks, these were great. They were absolutely marvelous at it. So beautiful soundstage, beautiful imaging. I thought they were accurate throughout the entire frequency range. I didn't detect any coloration, any anomalies whatsoever. Just in a beautiful nuanced mid-range. I mean, Gregory Porter's voice on No Love Dying. Oh my goodness, it was so detailed and so resonant and so characterful. These speakers are very, very accurate. And again, that accuracy means that you better put good into them. You better put a good recording into them. You better put good electronics on them. And if you do, you will be rewarded without any question. Well, I had a fascinating time with these speakers. Truly remarkable and very eye-opening and very revealing, and given me another reference point in my journey with the channel and my journey in reviewing products for you guys. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to review these. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you'd be willing to give me a like and your subscription. About 60% of my viewers aren't subscribed, and if you would consider doing so, it would greatly help the channel and help me continue to get really cool products into review for you guys, and obviously for myself to enjoy, because that's part of what this channel is all about. I'm having a ball doing it. Anyway, so please like, subscribe. I'd like to take a moment to thank my subscribers and my channel members. You guys, you're wonderful to me, and I greatly appreciate it. I really do. Now, there will be a Title and Co-Buzz link to the playlist I created for these speakers. There will also be a link to the community post with all the text information, all the tracks, all of what I heard and what you could expect to hear. And it's brief. I didn't go into a ton of detail, but hopefully give you a hint when you're listening to your system. You know, now you can, are you hearing what I'm hearing? And maybe you can make some comparisons, some value judgments. That's kind of what the whole idea behind it was. So that will be in the community post, and there will be a link in the video description. There will also be a membership link in the pinned comment and in the video description. There's some affiliate links in the video description. There will be a link to TAD's website. I have no affiliation with them, but if you want to do a deeper dive or look at some of their other products, there will be a link in the video description for that. Please comment. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about this? Am I crazy for doing $22,000 speakers? I don't think so. Again, gives me a new reference point as I move forward, and I'm grateful for that. So anyway, comment, let me know your thoughts. I've covered all the bases now on the review of this speaker. Yeah, I think I have. Anyway, like, subscribe, comment, follow me on Instagram if you want to. My name is Ed Holmwood. This is the Old Guy Hi-Fi channel, and you need to take some time today. Sit back, relax, put on some of your favorite music, and just let it wash over you and enjoy yourself. You gave me a lot of your time today. I'm grateful for it. Thank you so much. I really hope you have a wonderful day.